Hello, 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 and welcome to Unique Leaders Live. I'm Megan DiMartino, and today is Friday, my favorite day of the week. And not because it's Friday and the weekend, it's because it's Unique Leaders Live Day. I am so thrilled to have my guest today, Michelle McClain. Michelle's story is amazingly rich with perseverance, love, compassion, and so much more. I can't wait for you to hear her story and meet Michelle. But before we do, I'd just like to give you a brief background to Unique Leaders Live. It is now a podcast as well, but when we began a year ago or a year and a half ago now, it was during a time when we were all home. And I felt that it was time to share other people's stories. And so I did. And so from there, Unique Leaders Live was birthed. And these stories are your stories. You'll see yourself in these stories. You'll be awakened by the compelling aspect to them and how similar to your life there is. So I just wanted to sit back and listen to Michelle's story and understand that we are all together in this. We are not alone. So the Unique Leaders Live is on all social media platforms. So please share this out on all of the platforms as you're watching this that you use. And also it's on YouTube. So if you haven't been on YouTube, go to it, subscribe, and you'll be able to see not only Michelle's story, but also the other amazing year and a half of segments that we have filmed, from Sharon Lecter to Glenn Lundy to Scott Simons, amazing people and their stories. So please subscribe. It will help others find us. And then on Tuesday, Michelle's story will be on all the podcasting platforms. So you'll be able to work out, take your walks, do whatever, and listen to not only Michelle, her story, but others as well. So without further ado, let you meet my guest, Michelle McClain.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you
My
for having me.
pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. I've been so looking forward to this, Michelle, because you've had an epic year, and I've known you for several, and the journey is quite extraordinary. So, let's just dig in and get to it. So, why don't we go to where Michelle was born, a little bit about young Michelle, and then your journey from there?
Absolutely. So again, thank you for having me. It's super exciting to be here with you today. My very dear friend, I have watched you grow in so many ways as well. So that has just been an amazing journey just to kind of watch the path of Megan DiMartino. You've done so much since I met you. So it's an honor to be here with you. But so Michelle was born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1981. I am going to be celebrating the big 4-0 here in about a month. But I had a pretty normal childhood. I think from all accounts. I was an honors student. I was very in tune, I think, with the person that I wanted to become at a very young age, although I didn't quite realize it yet. I remember being as young as 5 years old, and I was very competitive. I was in all types of sports and events and school things. I was president of my student council. I was always really competitive. And I think sometimes that might have done me a little bit more harm than good. I just wanted to stand out. And I think from a very young age, I had something inside of me that I knew I wanted to be more and do more in life. And everything that I involved myself in, I had the mentality of go big or go home. Like I said, even as early as 5, my mom had me in the Girl Scouts, and I remember selling like 550 boxes of Girl Scout cookies.
Right.
And I think my family kind of all knew at some point I was going to endeavor into the world of sales. We just didn't know where I would end up. And so, like I said, had a pretty normal childhood. I loved high school. I was a social butterfly. I think I attracted people to me because I was never part of a clique. Very similar to today. I've always had that mentality of we rise together. And so I was just as much friends with, the people that weren't as, popular as I was the popular kids. I was a cheerleader in high school. I played volleyball. I sang. I was in show choir. I mean, I was very well-rounded. And I think that really kind of set me off on my journey so that when I started college, I had a lot more of a foundation than probably a lot of other people had just by doing all of those things and being so active. But I went to Miami University. I graduated with honors. I have 2 degrees. I have one in marketing, one in English literature, and a minor in business legal studies, all of which were paid for by the automotive industry. And the auto industry literally changed my life.
So how did that happen? How did that step in there even then?
Originally, I started college actually at 17, and I was going to go in for IT. That was my original plan and goal. Computer information systems. I wanted to work on networks and things like that. And my very first day, before I ended up at Miami, I went to a technical school. And my first day walking in, they sat me down and required that we take a typing class. And my mom, God love her, from the time that I remember being probably, 8 or 9 years old, my mom said, you're going to need typing one day, and you're not going to go out and do like school activities. You're not doing extracurriculars until you can successfully sit down and type 45 words per minute. And like I said, I'm 8 or 9 years old at this time. And I was so mad at my mom because all I wanted to do was go out and play with my friends. And so, like I said, I had that competitive nature in me. And I said, okay, Mom, I'll show you. So I did it for a week. And by the end of that week, I was successfully typing 110 words a minute at about 98, 99% accuracy.
Okay.
And so it was ironic because, like I said, my first day at this technical school, they required us to take this like hunt and peck typing class. And I said, listen, guys, like, I'm not paying $350 a credit hour to take typing. Like, can I test out? They wouldn't let me test out. So I went back the second day to take one of my first networking classes, and the network crashed. And the instructor couldn't figure out how to fix it. And I did. And at that point, I said, you know what? This is enough. Like, this is not for me. I'm not going to pay somebody to teach things that I had already spent my life learning. And so I walked away. I took about a year off, and I began working at CompUSA. I was originally hired to do customer service, and within 2 days of being there, I was very fortunate. They put me in my very first sales role ever. I did very well. I was salesperson of the month in and month out. And at that point, I kind of realized that sales was my thing. And so I was going to school. I was working at CompUSA. I was waitressing as well at night. And my schedule was so crazy. I had no life. All I was doing was, like I said, working and going to school. And be it as it may, I was waitressing. And one night I came off of my shift, went out to start my car that I had bought and paid for by myself. And my car blew up, literally, like the whole parking lot filled with smoke. So I had my mom come and get me, and it was about 10 till 9 at night. And my mom said, why don't we stop by a dealership on the way home? I was that quintessential person that every car dealer hates. I wasn't even 18 yet, no intention to buy a car. But nevertheless, we rolled in, and it was so shady on every level. I remember the guy who was the finance manager, literally constructing driver's licenses and pay stubs in his office. I mean, it was that bad.
Wow.
Wanting to post date a deal at some ridiculous interest rate for my 18th birthday, and have me buy the car. Needless to say, I did not buy a car that night. But the long and short of it is that sales manager literally called and called and called, trying to get my business. And every time I said I would never buy a car from your dealership, the way you do business is just, it's not ethical. No, thank you. My grandfather and my uncle were in the car industry on the technical side for most of my life. So I grew up in garages. But the fourth time the sales manager called, he said, okay, I'm not going to try to sell you a car anymore, but can I sell you a job? You have a great personality. I think that you would be instrumental in helping us to change things at the dealership. And I laughed. Because my idea of a salesperson was, the grumpy old guy with the elbow pads. And, I'd never envisioned myself doing that. But the icing on the cake was essentially, he said, if you stay for 6 months, you average selling 10 cars per month, we will reimburse you for all of your education.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, you don't hear that happening. So I was at this point where I'm like, I'm going to school, I'm working 2 jobs, I'm paying for all of my own education, I have outstanding student loans. What do I have to lose? I give them 6 months. If I do well, I get my college paid for. If I don't, I still make more money than I'm making at these 2 jobs combined, and I learn a new skill and a new craft. And So my first month at the dealership, I sold 14 and a half cars. I did about $28,000 in gross profit. And I made more money than I ever had made in my life at 18 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was the only woman on the sales floor. It was
Mm-hmm.
very intimidating. I felt like a guppy in a shark tank,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
never looked back.
Yeah.
And I grew through the auto industry. So I started in sales. Within a few years, I was promoted into a finance position. My primary background was secondary F&I. For those of you that may not understand that terminology, it was basically I had a passion for helping people that had less than perfect credit in
Mm-hmm.
order to get into vehicles. But beyond that, it was literally sitting down with them and saying, okay, this is how we fix this. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just about, getting you a car. Let's fix the problem. Let's tackle that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. I did it for several years. And then I was promoted again. I went into sales management. And then at 23 years old, I was the youngest person ever. A bank came after me and put me into a marketing position.
But meanwhile, you were going to college during this season.
Yeah, I know. I had gone back to part-time. When
Mm-hmm.
I originally had started school, I was taking a full course load. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was taking every credit hour that I could because I wanted to try to graduate early.
Mm-hmm.
When I originally started, it was just the focus of the English degree. And then I started looking at things because my goal after, the 6 months at the dealership, I wanted to finish college and go to law school. I wanted to do mergers and acquisitions, and I wanted to become an attorney. Like that was my life goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, in English because I figured that was really going to help me best through law school. I love to read. I love to write. It's always been a passion.
Mm-hmm.
But the more that I dove into that sales position and the better that I became, and then I started getting really creative because at that time we didn't have social media. We had a box on our desk that had people's names and phone numbers. There was no social marketing.
Sure.
So I had to get really creative when it came to retaining clients. And one thing I started doing, I started connecting with local businesses in my community. I think the first place I went to, it was a locally owned salon. And I had these postcards made up and it said, pamper yourself on me, buy any car from Michelle at the dealership I was at, receive a $250 gift card to the salon. And it was just random. So I mean, didn't cost me a whole lot of money, but I walked into the salon and said, hey, this is going to cost you nothing. Hand these out, put them in your bags with your products. If they come in and buy a car from me and they have this card, I will buy a $250 gift card to your salon and gift it to them. So that was really my first introduction to marketing.
That's great.
Reciprocity. And so I began building that out with restaurants, with a local hardware store. It said, do your home improvements on me. I just kept coming up with different ideas. And on average, I was selling an extra 7 to 10 cars per month for the dealership just by being different, standing out, being a unique leader. And so I stayed, like I said, with the auto industry in one capacity or another. Most of my career with a Subaru store, bounced back and forth. I was an SME shortly before I launched my own company in 2015. I was an SME for a fintech warranty solution company in the automotive space. And I just got to this point where I kept bouncing back between the vendor side of things and the dealer side of things. And then ultimately I was offered a GSM role at a Subaru store.
Now stop for a minute. What does that mean? What is the next
sales manager?
Okay.
But the position they had in mind wasn't the traditional role of a GSM. So typically speaking, a GSM is going to monitor pretty much all aspects of sales and finance, your BDC operations. They're going to kind of be around all that. They do a lot of the same things that your general manager will, and they're the fallback. For me, however, though, they created a specific position because they wanted me for my retention. They wanted me for my marketability. At the time, the dealership was falling below par. We have a gauge for metrics in the car business, which is called CSI, right? Customer Satisfaction Index. Okay. These are scores. These are surveys that are sent out to clients after you purchase a vehicle from the dealership, and anything less than a perfect score is actually considered a failing grade by all accounts to the OEM. And a lot of people don't realize that. So when you buy a car, your salesperson says, have I earned a perfect 10s or have I earned a truly exceptional score? They're asking you that because by the OEM standard, manufacturer standards, anything less than a perfect score is a fail. And these are all factored in things like the bonuses or the dealership getting a certain allocation of vehicles, things like that. So if their scores are too low, they lose lots of money, but they also lose vehicle inventory. So it's really important for a dealership.
Wow.
So they tasked me with being the person in this GSM role who was going to handle both service and sales and getting these scores up and making sure that customers were completely satisfied. And it was a chore. They were below where they were supposed to be, and I had less than 90 days to get them back up to where they needed to be, or they sought to lose millions of dollars. And so we made an agreement. I began doing.
I have one question though. Where are you now geographically? Are you still?
I am in Colorado now. I bought my dream home in February, sight unseen. So I'm in Colorado now.
No, that's not what I meant. Not now. I'm talking about back with the
I was in Cincinnati.
Structure.
I was in Cincinnati,
Cincinnati.
Ohio.
That's all.
I moved back and forth between Cincinnati and Chicago, which is where I met my husband.
Okay.
Which we'll get into that.
Yes.
So Cincinnati to Chicago, that's where I was. So I was in Cincinnati at the time.
Yeah.
I was working for a Subaru store, a very large dealer group, and like I said, they had tasked me with this, and I, by all accounts, I blew away the numbers, did everything that they were asking to do. And when it came time for me to collect on all of I had been promised, it was excuse after excuse after excuse. And I had a decision to make. I had probably the most difficult decision I'd ever made in my life, because I had relationships, genuine relationships with every single client that came in and out of that dealership. It was never about the revolving door to me. It was never about the paycheck to me. We all need to make a living, right? We all have to pay a mortgage or car payment. But for me, that business, it's never been about that. It was about building genuine relationships. And I had built so many genuine relationships throughout the tenure of my career in automotive that when I made the decision to walk away, my heart broke. I mean, it was painful. I remember sitting in that office with our general manager and saying, listen, either you pay me what I'm worth, or I'm going to take everything I'm doing for your dealership and I'm going to do this for every dealership and business in the country. Because we were creating these beautiful logo cookie boxes that I'm sure you've seen advertised. We were doing all sorts of things that were different. They were outside of the box.
Right.
Most of the time when people come to a dealership, they might get one phone call after they've purchased. They might get a cute little manila card with gold writing that says thank you and a stamp. And they might get an email, right? But nothing that I had been doing had really ever been done to that level. And everything I did was unique. And I gave them the ultimatum. And ultimately, they didn't make a decision within my time frame that was acceptable to me. And I said, I've put in a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of effort. I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to start my own company. And they laughed me out the door. I was a woman. The echoes of the grass isn't greener speech followed me all the way out to my car. I handed my demo keys back. They tried to give my car back. They said, think about it. You don't know what you're doing. This is the worst mistake you're ever going to make. You've got a cushy office and a great salary. And I said, and that's all fine and good, but this no longer aligns with my vision, my purpose for life. I'm going to go.
But furthermore, you attained, or not attained, you created and succeeded in the goal that they gave you, which was pretty daunting. You succeeded in it, and they
surpassed it.
Far surpassed it, and they did not follow through with what they
tried to renegotiate because they didn't realize, I don't think at the time when they put me in that position, I don't think they realized what I was able of. They had seen me in other facets. I mean, I said, listen, you're getting $2 million in your bonuses. I should get my cut, right? And it didn't happen. And I've never been one to engage in things like that. Like, I'll give you one opportunity and then I'm out. Like, I don't have time for that. And I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this myself. And it was really scary. It was very scary. I mean, when you go from, your car is paid for, your insurance is paid for, you're making well over 6 figures, you're doing really well for yourself. And then you go from that to, oh my gosh, I've never run a business. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know where to start. And if I don't succeed, just like Danelle Delgado says, who loses if I don't win?
Right.
I had responsibilities to a family and all kinds of things. So, it was really tough. But looking back, I don't think I would have changed anything for the world. I really don't. Yeah. My life has come so far. And, within a year of me doing that and walking away, I endured the worst tragedy of my life. And you want to talk about a test of faith? There is nothing in this world that can prepare you for that kind of tragedy. And I know a lot of people watching know my story. But I left that dealership middle of 2015. And, when you just are starting out, right, you kind of dilly-dally for 6 months to a year trying to just figure out what you're doing.
Sure.
Well,
Sure.
I kind of started to figure it out in July of 2016. And on November 16th of 2016, I woke up in my husband's lifeless cold arms, only to discover that he had taken his own life. And I just remember being numb, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
I remember screaming and crying, and I can't really tell you much of what happened that night. It was all a blur.
Mm-hmm.
Surrounded by police and paramedics and
Mm-hmm.
watching them with paddles try and save my husband, and he was gone.
Mm-hmm. And you were all but 30, what,
Let's see, I'm going to be,
34?
let's do the math. It was 5
34.
years ago. Yeah, like 34, 35, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There were no signs. He had struggled and battled with addiction for much of his life. His upbringing, it was tumultuous. But you don't ever think that somebody that you love
Mm-hmm.
would just do something like that. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
You can't plan. You can't prepare. And for almost a year after that, I just spiraled. I completely spiraled. I stopped working on my business. I couldn't function. Doctors were pushing all kinds of medication down my throat and on me and saying, take this, you need this for concentration, or you need this for anxiety, you need this for depression. And I've never been one that I don't like medication. I never have. And especially considering, that my husband had struggled with the addiction. And for after about a month, they had me on all this garbage, and I didn't even feel like myself. I didn't know who I was. And I don't recommend this to anybody, always talk to your doctor, but I dumped it all down the toilet. I said, enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I began drowning myself in wine. I wanted to numb the pain.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to numb the pain. And I got to a place where I didn't care anymore. I didn't care about me. If you go back and look at end of 2016, beginning of 2017, and I've toyed with taking it down, but the posts that I was making on social media, it was just anger, sheer anger and pain and hate at his family because they weren't there. They weren't around. They weren't anything for me. I felt like I was completely alone. And I was terrified. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know how I was going to pick up the pieces of my life. I didn't know how I was going to move forward. I didn't know how I was going to be the mom that I needed to be. I didn't know any of these things. I was angry with God. I stopped going to church. All of the things that had once brought me so much joy in my life, now were just a constant reminder of that pain. And it was tough. And my family started to see me just spiraling out of control. And said, listen, you got to do something. Like, you can't do this anymore. And at the time, my mom was getting ready to retire, and she said, we're going to move south. It was a split-second decision. We're going to move south. We're moving in 3 weeks. I think you should come with us. And I hate the South. I hate the heat. It's not me. I hate it. My dream has always been, since 2005, the day that I first stepped off of a plane in Colorado, I said, I'm buying a house in the mountains. That's where I'm going to be. And so once again, it was like, I felt like I was just taking 10 steps back. But at the same time, I knew I needed to be around family. I needed to be around people who were going to lift me up. And I still was at that place where I just was kind of lost. I lived, even though I lived near my mom, I ended up meeting somebody. And the crazy story that happened with me even going to South Carolina. So a friend of mine drove me down to South Carolina. I had just turned in my lease for my vehicle, so I didn't have a car. And he drove me down from Chicago because I had been visiting my kids in Chicago, and we drove all the way down to South Carolina. And we get there, and I had some paperwork and things that I had to do the very next morning in Charleston, right? So I take my friend's car. We didn't get there till like midnight. I take my friend's car, and halfway to Charleston, I had a hotel for the night. The car stops running on the side of the road. Now, mind you, this is like dark, desolate highway. There's no lights. There's nothing. It's like this 100-mile stretch of road, and the car dies on the side of the highway.
Oh my.
I'm trying to call my mom. I'm trying to call my friends. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do. And I ended up calling somebody that I knew from social media, of all things. I said, I don't know what to do here. I'm stranded. I'm literally like 100 miles from Charleston. It's 1:30 in the morning. And he came and got me. And we ended up dating for several years. But in the interim of that, the very next morning at 8:30, you want to talk about having angels. I got a phone call from the friend that I had borrowed his car. 5 minutes after I'd been picked up, that car was leveled by an 18-wheeler. The guy fell asleep behind the wall or behind the wheel. They sent me pictures. The police sent me pictures. It was literally flattened.
Oh my. Oh my.
You talk about God being there. That was a God moment. I probably should have been dead.
Yes.
And
Yeah. But you know what's interesting about that is that it's also a statement that, Michelle, I took you out of there, and your friend is not injured who owns the car, but I
right.
took you out of there to show you that I am God.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. You know, and it took me still yet a few more
Mhm.
months before I would really start to figure it out. I was literally at home one day, and the guy that I was dating at the time, his boss and his boss's wife had invited me to go to their church. And at that point, I just wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. I was still really angry, but I downed a whole bottle of wine one day. And 2 weeks prior to this day, this book had shown up on my doorstep. It was called Unshakable by Pastor Nelson Searcy, Standing Strong When Things Go Wrong. I still to this day don't know who sent it or where it came from or how anyone got my address. But this book shows up on my doorstep. And I had picked that book up, and I had just literally haphazardly thrown it on my dining room table. 2 weeks later, like I said, I'm a bottle of wine in. This whole incident had happened with the car and all of that. And I was a shaken mess. And I was in my dining room, and all of a sudden I felt hands on my back. Like there was no one there. It was just me.
Mhm.
And it felt like there were two very distinct hands on my back, and that someone pushed me down to my knees. And now maybe I was more intoxicated than I thought I was, and I fell. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I remember being there on my knees, and out of nowhere just started crying and crying and crying and screaming and asking God, why did this happen to me? And I heard a voice, a very audible man's voice that said, "Girl, get up. Girl, get up."
Mhm.
I don't know where it came from.
Mhm.
But I got up, and that book was the first thing that I saw.
Mhm.
And the next day I started reading that book. I got about halfway through the book, and once again, the guy I was dating at the time, his boss's wife said, "Would you please go to church with us on Sunday? I think you'll really get something out of it." And I finally said, "Okay, you know what? What do I have to lose?" So I went, and I walked through those church doors and was handed a program. And at the top of the program is the word unshakable.
Mhm.
And I walked through the doors, and on the big screen is the word unshakable.
Mhm.
And Megan,
Mhm.
that single moment solidified everything for me in my life. That was God speaking to me
Mhm.
in a way that I can't explain. And I think sometimes that happens.
Mhm.
I think sometimes we are waiting so long for that audible sign, or for that smack in the face, or for that
Mhm.
here's the shiny light moment that you're waiting for. And I waited and I waited and I waited. And I look back, and there were so many times throughout that year where I now go, "Oh, that was God. That was God talking to me. That was God trying to give me a nudge." And I
Mhm.
just kept ignoring it.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
remember after coming out of that, literally just praying and going, "Okay, God, give me a sign. Give me a sign." And it was like he came out in full force and said, "You want a sign? Here you go."
Right.
Get your life together. Like, you
Yes.
cannot keep doing this.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
made a decision that day. I remember going to that altar call at church and just laying it all on the altar and people praying around me, and everything changed.
Mhm.
Everything changed that day. And I made a commitment. I said, I'm not going back. It's time to move forward. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that my business had been suffering. And if I wanted to succeed, I had to change my image. So many people had unfollowed me and didn't really care for the human I was. Like, they didn't. I remember lots of people telling me I was vulgar and angry, and that they didn't want to read my negativity. And I mean, I
Mhm.
had every right to feel that way,
Mhm.
but I had to clean up my act and I had to clean up my image. So I stopped drinking. Um, and I started to shift my image on social media from one of pushing everyone away like I had for a year to now, how do I use my story and my journey to save just one and to
Mhm.
bring people together and to change
Mhm.
lives?
Mhm.
And it started with doing something as simple as like birthday posts for people and saying, hey, I see you, I acknowledge you, because Megan, you never know what people are going through. We
No.
don't.
No.
So many people, they put out this facade on social media.
Mhm.
I mean, I used to do it. I know we've all probably done it,
Mhm.
where we just want to put the highlight reel. We don't ever want people to see the bad
Mhm.
ones. We don't want to see people to see the grief or the things that we go through.
Mhm.
And I decided to do it different. I decided I needed to share my story, because if I could lose my husband to suicide, I knew that there were other people in this world that were probably going through things they would never share on social media, that they were hiding
Mhm.
behind the tragedy or the pain or the things they were feeling inside.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to change somebody. And I wanted my husband's death to have purpose and have
Mhm.
meaning and to be able to do something to change. And so, like I said, I started with the birthday post. It was just a simple gesture of, hey, I acknowledge you. I see
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
Maybe you're not actually out celebrating, and maybe you don't have people around you for your birthday, and it's your birthday, and maybe the only thing that you're going to get today is my stupid little birthday post that says happy birthday, I'm thinking of you, and you may not even know me.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
started
but
with
you do such a beautiful job with that. Such a
thank
great
you.
job.
And
Mhm.
I do it now. I still do it every day, but it was just that simple of a thing. And
Mhm. Mhm.
that led into me being contacted by people, because I was doing my own advertising and saying, who does your graphic work? And I was like, oh, well, I do. And then that led into like major contracts with major companies to do brand strategy and marketing, because
Mhm.
everything that I was doing to grow my own business and overcome my own grief, I was using them to pour back into other people and their businesses and say, well, this is how I did it, but maybe we
Mhm.
can collect together, and two
Mhm.
heads are better than one. Let's come up with a strategy for your brand and your business.
Mhm.
And I started doing that. And now, it's grown into something I never could have imagined for myself. I was a car
Mhm.
girl. That was it. I was a car girl.
Yeah, but when you shared the story about the salon and the first dynamic of that back in the early stages, I was thinking to myself, well, that's the seed of retention master.
Yeah.
Meaning because you were thinking in the box, out of the box, around the box, and building that client retention and
Yeah.
that relationship. So you've been doing it for years. It was just in a different form.
Today is the very first time, and you saying that is honestly the very first time I've ever thought about it like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Call me. I'll fill. No, I mean, now that you've shared your story, it makes total sense. Mhm.
Yeah, I cannot honestly say that I've ever been as happy as I am now in my life. And the fact that I get to work with amazing people every day and dealers, and I get to creating is at the core of what I do. And whether it's something as simple as a graphic or doing a web page for somebody, or creating retention packages that they can help to use to keep their clients. We
Yeah.
do all kinds of stuff, but every day I get to create something new and different. No 2 days are ever the same. And even going through all of that, up until about a year and a half or so ago, I had gone from losing my husband, moving to South Carolina. I ended up in a really toxic relationship, where I was held back in every capacity. And, narcissism on every level. And I think at that point, once I made the decision that I needed to do me and be me, regardless of anything else, I had to eliminate all the toxicity in my life to really be able to shine. And I was, even though I was succeeding and people on the outside were seeing what I was doing and they were following my journey, I still wasn't happy with me. I was very, very unhappy with me. And so I made the decision that I needed to get my health and my life together. That was another really big turning point. And I left the relationship. I left everything. I literally just said, okay, everything that is here and right now in front of me, if it is not serving me and my higher purpose, it's got to go. And then once again, here I was faced with one of the toughest decisions of my life. I'd spent 3 years with someone. He had proposed to me, but it wasn't it wasn't right. And God kept putting those signs once again, like, Michelle, this is not what I have planned for you. And I walked away. I literally did. I walked away. And I moved back in with my mom temporarily. I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew that I wasn't happy. And I said, okay, now we got to start working on the outer appearance. I did a self audit and I said to myself, why are you not happy, Michelle? Like, your career is going well. You have amazing friends around you. Like, you have all these things in place. Why are you so unhappy with who you are? I know a lot of people sometimes, we all are our own worst critic and enemy, and we look in the mirror and we don't see what we like. But for me, I genuinely felt like the person on the inside didn't match the out. I was horribly overweight. I was 276 pounds, heaviest I'd ever been in my life. No doubt the result of depression and drinking and losing my husband and doing all of the things I probably should never have been doing. But nevertheless, I got to the place where I was on that scale and I broke down. And I remember crying to my mom and going, how did this happen? How did this happen? And I connected with somebody on social media who I had seen posting about training for someone else in our industry. And I said, what do I have to lose but a call? And I picked up the phone and broke down. I probably word vomited to Luke for an hour and a half on the phone, talking about how miserable I was, giving him all the excuses. I didn't have time. I ran a company. And he refused to listen to any of it. He goes, okay, we're going to make this so stupid simple. You're going to eat the same thing every day for 3 weeks. I'm going to have you walking 10,000 steps and we're going to go to the gym and strength train. And I went, I can't do all of that. There's no way. And I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, Megan. It started with that. And probably, I don't know, a month or so into that journey of trying to just start changing my habits with food and fitness and just doing something, right? Getting off the couch and doing something. Out of nowhere, somebody stumbled into my life and changed everything, believed in me and pushed me and made me believe in the person that I knew I could be on every possible level, and kept pushing my journey of going, hey, I see this in you. I see that all these other people see this in you. Now we got to get Michelle to see this in Michelle. Whatever it takes, you don't have to date me. You don't have to do any of that. But I want you to know that you have a friend. You have a friend. You have someone that's going to be in your corner. The good, the bad, the ugly, the ups, the downs. I'm here. And I said, yeah, I'm not interested. Thanks. I'm good. Got it. I'm self-sufficient. Don't need you. Don't need anyone in my life. I got this. God had other plans.
Exactly. And all he said is, I just want to be your friend.
That's it. I just want to be your friend. I'm good. Nothing else. And we kept in touch. He works for the Department of Defense. So he's over in Iraq half the time. One of the very highly qualified people in this world that's able to work on eye in the sky technology. And so when he came back from Iraq, I was his first stop. And I said, okay, I'll give you your 5 minutes. I'll meet you. And the rest is history. But, it's crazy because he pushed my journey in so many ways. I've lost 140 pounds now in the last year, just diet and exercise. I went from a size 24 to a size 6'8". I have more energy than I've ever had in my life. I have found my person in every way imaginable. And it's crazy how that happens. I think we spend so much of our lives like searching for that perfect relationship or that perfect person that's going to complete us. And at the end of the day, no human being on this planet is going to be able to complete you unless you can complete yourself.
Amen.
And that is what he taught me.
Mm-hmm.
That is what he showed me. And I had no intention of ever being in a relationship ever again. None. Zip, zero, zilch. I was like, I'm good. I'm doing me. We don't need. Nope. Good. Just stay away. Please do not fall in love with me. I cannot take it. I have way too much drama in my life. And he stuck around. And he stuck around every day, reminding me, whether he was away or home, you matter. You're beautiful. You can do this. I've got your back, no matter what. And became my best friend. And like I said, in February, we bought our house sight unseen before we'd ever met in person. Many people don't know that. They would probably think I was insane. But you just know. Like, there was unequivocally no doubt in my mind. And when I told my family what I was doing, my whole family, who has always contradicted everything I have ever done, when I don't do something that my family, like when I disagree or something, my father especially, first person to go, you have lost your mind. And my dad, we've grown up in church the whole time. My dad's an associate pastor. My dad's very straight and narrow. We don't do things outside of the box. And when I told my dad what I was doing, my dad said, I had a dream about this, and this is exactly the person that you're supposed to be with, and you have my blessing. Go buy your house, go get married, and go live your life. Well, I'm not married yet. We'll see.
Well, I have a question.
When he finally decides to pop the question, if he does, which we'll see. But
well, I'm sure. But I have a question. So I knew that. Obviously, I've known you've moved to Colorado, to your beautiful home in the mountains. I've obviously know that because you posted, and I know you, and you've shared that. But you recently shared a little bit about this person. But have you shared that you and this? What is his name?
His name is Jason.
You and Jason, have you shared publicly that you and Jason have bought your home together?
Oh yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows that we bought the house.
Well, I'm the last to know here. Okay.
Oh no. Like I didn't really put it out there. Like, people that are around me that
right.
I keep my private life pretty private.
Yes, you do.
I think that's better.
Yes,
I don't like a lot of people meddling.
For sure.
And I waited a year before I even came out with our relationship because I just wanted to be 100% sure. I knew in my heart.
Yes,
I really did. I knew. But I'm very protective of it because we have something that I have never had in my life.
Yes.
I've never had that kind of cheerleader and supporter.
This makes it so much for me, I should say. I'm speaking personally now. I didn't know this, and I'm so excited and pleased for you, Michelle. Pleased is understatement. But one of the things I want to highlight before we end, because we need to continue this conversation in so many different directions for our viewers and listeners. But in listening to you share the story, which I do know, but in chronological order, so to speak, this is such a gift for you sharing. Is such a gift for our viewers and listeners, Michelle, because as we've discussed before, that so many people may not have gone through exactly what you've gone through, but they have gone through a lot, and they actually see that this person not only survived, but is thriving. And through the power of the Holy Spirit, A, the car incident, and B, the church incident, meeting with the book and the author, and then the message there loud and clear. So we just have to be open to listen for that God wink, that God nudge, and actually, like you also said, the hands upon your back. So it's, if nothing more, people have heard this loud and clear.
God is faithful, even when we are not, even when we doubt ourselves or our abilities, or we are going through the most trying of times. He has never left our side. And I believe that with every part of my being. And you don't have to align with my beliefs. You don't have to believe what I do, but I promise you that when you focus and you refuse to quit, you refuse to give up, and you just go, hey, I give up. That's what I did, Megan. I said,
Surrendered.
okay,
You
God, I
surrendered.
give up.
Hmm.
I can't do this
Hmm.
anymore. Whatever
Hmm.
your plan is for my life, run with it. Take the
Amen.
wheel because I can't do this on my own. I failed in every single aspect. I failed in everything that I tried to do on my own.
No, but you didn't fail. But because life is life. You didn't fail.
Life was life.
But you life is life. But you're human and life is life. But you surrendered and finally, and that's all the Lord wants. That's all God
Amen.
wants is to say, "Hey, I've got the roadmap. I know the plan. Stop fitting a square peg in a round hole.
Absolutely.
Lean and trust me." So, as we end here this week, the week after Thanksgiving, I ask every guest the same question, Michelle. And it's, based on 3 Feet from Gold, which I know you've read, and Sharon Lecter's success formula, passion plus
Passion
talent.
plus talent times action times association plus faith.
So I don't ask you to pinpoint each, but what is your passion and what is your talent?
My passion is people above all else. My passion is people. It's making a massive impact and changing lives. And the beauty of it is that my talent is creative. And I get to marry that in every single thing that I do every single day, and getting to help every business owner that I come in contact with to create their brand and to create their vision. And at the same time, I get to change lives. I get to share stories. I get to know the people I'm working with on such a deeper level. And I think that really is where my creative comes from. And a lot of
Hmm.
people don't know this and might laugh, but anytime somebody comes to me with brand work or logo work or anything like that, I literally pray about it, Megan. I
Hmm.
close my eyes, I pray about it, and I say, okay, God, give me the vision.
Hmm.
And it literally will manifest itself in front of my face as I'm sitting there and doing that. And
Hmm.
the only way that I'm able to do that and to channel that is by getting to know the people I'm working with on a much deeper level, having
Hmm.
that open line of communication. There's a lot of designers out there that'll go, okay, give me 100 or 200 bucks and I'll whip up something for you. But for me, I hate that. I
Hmm.
want to know every client that I work with on a personal level. I want to know their goals. I want to know their vision. I want to know what their dreams are. I want to
Hmm.
create that relationship. And so
Hmm.
when I'm, like I said, that's truly my passion is people and working with people. My talent just happens to marry with that and creativity, and I get to create beautiful things.
So now people must follow you on Facebook and Instagram because now they can see this journey. Honestly, what you've done with your home just is so special, and the life that you're now creating is so special. And to hear the whole entire story, as I said, sequentially creates that narrative of understanding that it's never too early or too late to create the life of your dreams. And
Everything wants on the other side of fear. That's
amen.
it.
And you said initially before, as we began about we've known each other since 2018. I My journey is very different than yours. We're all snowflakes. We have a different journey. But you made a reference to seeing, my change or evolution. But again, this is my third or fourth iteration of my life, and um, and so with that said, I'm concurring with you, and I'm sharing with our guests and our viewers and listeners that again, it's never too early or too late. So, like you, Michelle, I was in a transition when I met you. I still owned my brick and mortar business, but I knew it was time. I knew it was that season was coming to a close. But you just don't walk away from something like that. And
Right.
so, because I had people depending upon me, and I on many levels loved it. So, but I knew in my spirit it was a transition time. So, what you've seen is that transition. And as I said, it's the third or fourth iteration of that. So I share this not about me, but about you, my friend, because you're just beginning. I can't wait to see what God has in store for you, my friend. Cannot wait
I
because
appreciate it
he
so much.
has a he has a big plan for you, Michelle. A big plan for you. Big.
Well, my plan is to help as many other people as I can. Like I said, my motto, I get up every day. That's my why. Just one. If I can save just one, if I can change just
Mhm.
one life, impact one
Mhm.
life. If
Mhm.
one person says, I didn't give up today because of you, That's all I can ask for. So
Amen.
we'll
Amen.
see. I'm just the vessel. God's using me in ways I never asked for, but I wouldn't change any of it.
Well, again, thank you for joining me today. And
Thank
I
you for
think it's a
having me.
very appropriate day, this weekend after Thanksgiving, because this is the kickoff, so to speak, of the holiday season. And so it's very fitting for not only you sharing your testimony and your story, but today to share that with our guests, because everyone today in this very sad and polarized world needs that understanding that it's never too early or too late, and it's
Amen.
trusting in him. So
Always.
thank you, love. Really,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So why don't you be in the green room for a minute, and I'll be right back.
Alrighty.
Thank you. Wow. I'm always moved by my guests' stories. They're always so rich with truth and life and message, always. But to listen to Michelle and one woman who is just turning 40, um, have this journey that she has been on, and what testimony of her not only creativity and brilliance, but the strength and fortitude to withstand it and to continue on, and the joy and peace that she is now having personally, but also knowing that it is her mission, vision, and life to share just with one. So, folks, I just ask you to share this out with all of your social media platforms, because there are people that need to hear Michelle's story. And also, it is on YouTube, so subscribe. Michelle's story is there now, and it will be there forevermore, but there are other amazing, unique leader stories that are there as well. And then Tuesday, Michelle's segment will be on all of the podcasting platforms. So subscribe to iTunes. We truly would appreciate it, because it will help others to find not only Michelle's, but all other unique leaders. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week for another Unique Leaders Live. And be blessed.